Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the Pacific West Coast of Canada. I hope everybody is having a fantastic week so far. I hope you are all keeping healthy and staying positive in today's challenging times. Welcome, Danya. Hi, Nisa. Hi, Imad. Good to see so many students already in this class. And in this class, we are looking at an IELTS listening section. We will focus on part 1 and 2. We will use a practice exam from our course for this, and we're going to focus on understanding and answering the questions accurately. While we wait for a few more of your peers, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. That's academicenglishhelp.com, as well as gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. These are our websites. They have lots of practice exams, interactive materials, HD lesson videos for all sections of the test. We'll be using these today for the listening. This is our academic IELTS website here with the blue background. You can click this big red button to join the premium package there. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. General IELTS, same idea. Click that big red button. Doesn't cost very much, especially compared to the IELTS test, so it's well worth the investment. We're an official British Council IELTS Test Registration Center and certified agents, so you're in good hands with us. We help students every day achieve the scores that they need for their immigration and studies abroad. Of course, we have apps. Our apps are Academic IELTS Help, links to aehelp.com, and General IELTS Help app, links to gieltshelp.com, so you can learn from the app or the website from the same account. And if you have questions about our products or about the IELTS or English, just send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com, and I will help you out. Brooke Newen, some of the app and some of the website is free, and of course there's paid content to keep food on the table for all of the people working hard every day in our company. All right, so we have listening part 1 and 2 right now, and then tomorrow we'll have, of course, more classes. We'll have listening part 3 and 4 as well, so make sure to join tomorrow if you're available. And then we will have classes on Saturday also, so classes, and more classes to keep you going. Okay, so let's get into today's listening. This is our third practice exam. It's called Test 2 because we have a review test as well. And we are going to just get right into it. So I'm going to play the audio from the website for this listening part 1. We are going to answer the questions while we listen. Do not put your answers into the chat. Give everybody a chance to answer on their own first. So put your answers in a separate document or on a separate piece of paper, and then we will share the answers afterwards together, and I will talk strategy and we'll go through it together. So we're going to do that. I'm going to play the audio through my headset microphone with a nice Bose speaker. If it's quiet for you, use a headset, turn up the volume, okay? All right, welcome our members, Nick Hill and Carolina, our moderator. Thank you for being with us. That's awesome. Okay, so let's hop over to our website here. I'm just going to log into my student account at the top of the page there. And of course, we've got lots of goodies in here, computer-based practice exams, full online course, lesson videos, and we're going to this tab here, the IELTS audio CDs, which complement the practice exams. And this is our third exam, listening section 1. Now, just before we start, a very quick tip. Okay, that's a very, very useful strategy to maybe get at least a half band score more on your listening section. When you're listening to the instructions of the listening section, look at the topics of part 2, part 3, and part 4. That will help you to understand them better and give better answers when you get to those more challenging parts. So you will see that when the audio starts, there will be about 1 minute of instructions. During that time, you will see me scroll to part 2, part 3, part 4, and just take a quick look at those topics. Okay, so do that with me, and that will help you. Okay. All right. So here we go, everyone.
This recording is copyrighted by 2 Think One Solutions Inc. and World ESL Tutors. You will hear several different recordings and you will answer questions on what you hear. There will be time given to read the instructions and questions, and you will be given a chance to check your work. The recordings will be played only once. The test is made up of 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to section 1. Listening section 1. You will hear a conversation between 2 women as one of the women registers her daughter for nursery school. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example. This time only, the conversation relating to this question will be played.
Good afternoon, Monterey Primary, Jane speaking.
Hello, my name is Diane Johnson. I was hoping to register my daughter for nursery school at Monterey Primary.
Of course, Miss Johnson. Would you like to register your daughter for full-day nursery school, or half-day, or full-day plus after-school care?
Oh, just the half day. I don't think Matilda could handle a full day away from home just yet.
The woman says she would like to register her daughter for half-day nursery school, so A has been indicated for you. Now we begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good afternoon, Monterey Primary, Jane speaking.
Hello, my name is Diane Johnson. I was hoping to register my daughter for nursery school at Monterey Primary.
Of course, Miss Johnson. Would you like to register your daughter for full-day nursery school, or half-day, or full-day plus after-school care?
Oh, just the half day. I don't think Matilda could handle a full day away from home just yet.
So your daughter's name is Matilda Johnson?
Yes, let me spell it for you. The first name is Matilda, Matilda, and the last name is Johnson, but it's not the common spelling. It's spelt Jonson. My husband is Swedish, which explains the different spelling.
Right. And what is Matilda's date of birth?
She was born December 25th, 2006.
So she was born at Christmas. That is incredible.
Yes, she was an incredible present to get for Christmas. It certainly was the most memorable Christmas I've had.
Yes, I would imagine. Okay, so now I need Matilda's personal education number, which she should have received in the post recently.
I don't remember receiving such a letter in the post.
It would have come from the Department of Education, and they always post things in yellow envelopes. You don't remember seeing a yellow envelope in the post?
In fact, I do, but I didn't open it. My husband did. He didn't mention anything about a personal education number. Now he's away with work and I won't be able to reach him.
Well, we can retrieve the number. I'm going to need your national insurance number as well as your husband's. I'm going to need your husband's name as well.
My husband's name is Eric, with a K instead of a C on the end. His last name is Johnson, of course. His national insurance number is DF987745W, and mine is KL409115N.
You now have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 6 to 10.
Right, okay, let me see here. Alright, here is a personal education number. I'll give it to you now so that you can write it down for future reference. It is T563-40192.
Just to make sure, the first character is T as in Thomas.
Yes, and this letter in front of the number shows what region the child is originally from. The T in this case refers to Tyne and Wear.
That would be correct, I'd imagine. Matilda was born in Newcastle, which of course is in Tyne and Wear.
Okay, so we have all the information about Matilda that we need. She is now registered for half-day nursery school in September. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I was wondering what sort of training your nursery school teachers have.
That is a very good question. Each of our teachers has, at a minimum, a 2-year diploma in early childhood education. Many of our senior staff have bachelor's degrees in education in addition to the 2-year diploma. And our departmental head, Miss Janet Roth, has a postgraduate certificate, bachelor's degree and diploma. Do not worry, Miss Johnson, your daughter Matilda is in very good hands.
That makes me feel a lot better. Can you tell me when the first day of school is? And also, will there be an orientation day for new students and parents?
The first day of class is the 5th of September, and yes, we do have an orientation day. It takes place on the 3rd of September from 9 to midday. Parents and children are strongly encouraged to attend.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, students, and in that half minute, make sure to check your answers so that you do not make any mistakes. I'm just going to stop our audio here, and then we'll go through the answers together. All right, before we do that, so as I mentioned at the beginning, a very good strategy is to take a look at section 2, section 3, or I should say part 2, part 3, and part 4 of the listening section. Since 2020, they changed from saying section to part 2, 3. It makes more sense for the IELTS exam terminology. Let's see how many of you caught that. So how many of you caught the topics of those later, more challenging sections? So before we get into answering, what was part 2 about? So what was the topic of part 2? Did anybody catch that? You're going to be listening to that shortly. Okay, Artist says part 2 was universities, part 4 was Isaac Newton, and part 3 was something about Egyptian products. Yeah, Arda, close, except for part 3. It was a little bit different. Okay, anybody else? What was part 3 about? So university, Egypt, Isaac Newton. It wasn't quite Egypt. If you have the chance, read a little bit more than the first question. So try to look at the first 3 questions so you get a clear idea of what it's about, okay? So part 2 was definitely something about a university. In fact, if you looked carefully, you might have figured out it was a university tour. Part 3, if you looked at the first 3 questions, you would have probably inferred that part 3 was something about taxes. And part 4 indeed was about Isaac Newton. Yeah, so those will be coming up. So you're priming your thinking, you're getting ready for those more challenging parts of the listening section, okay? So definitely take a look at those during the instruction time, okay? It's very important. You can probably save about half a band, if not a full band, by doing that. So make sure to look at the topics of part 2, 3, and 4 during the instruction time. Okay, so you get a good idea of that. In the computer-based exam, that's really easy because at the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to just click and navigate immediately to those questions very, very quickly. So it's a little bit slower in the paper-based because you actually have to flip the pages, but it's not bad either. All right, so let's take a look at the answers, and I'll give you some tips as we go along. Now, here, because this exam was designed before 2020, we still have this example question, but you don't actually have that since 2020. So since 2020, they changed it slightly. There's no example question. They just get right into the question. So don't expect to have that. And the past exams are great to study from, the Cambridge exams as well. It's just that you'll see that difference of the example question that's no longer available since 2020. Okay, so it gets right into question 1. All right, and the first question here, it's multiple choice. What is the woman's husband's nationality? And for this, you really have to listen for the answer. Okay, so what was it? What was the nationality here? Is it A, Swiss, B, Swedish, or C, Swazi? You had to really catch the pronunciation of this nationality. All right, Arda says B. Sammy agrees. Bashkasi, Hoang Nguyen also, Dan Nguyen as well. Yeah, B is the correct answer. So he is Swedish. You hear that dish sound? He's Swedish. That's repeated later on, right? So even if you didn't catch it the first time, don't panic. You will often hear answers a second time, especially in part 1. So pick the one you believe is right, and if you're not sure, keep an open ear, and you might hear the answer one more time, okay? So be patient, especially in part 1, okay? So you put B into your answer sheet, or you click B if you're doing the computer-based exam, and you're on the right path. All right, let's keep going. So number 2. How is a child's personal education number received? Again, in the conversation here, that was quite clear. So the woman says you should have received a yellow envelope. And as soon as you hear envelope, you definitely don't receive, well, you have little digital envelopes for email, but we don't really talk about them as much. Definitely nothing about picking it up from school. So the best answer, Drona, Simranjeet, Lele, very good. It's A, by post. Yeah, so it's received by post. Very good. Okay, cool. So let's keep going. Question 3. Still multiple choice. Again, you had to catch this. If you're not catching answers, check transcripts in your practice materials, okay? So why is the husband out of town? Is it A, vacation, B, work, or C, for family reasons? You have to really listen carefully to the woman who's calling in this case, because she's the one who will indicate that answer. Okay, so the correct answer is Ajmera, B. Yeah, B, very good. So lots of people picking up points here, which is the right idea, because part 1 is by far the easiest part of the listening. So your goal is really to get 9 or 10 of 10 correct. So you almost want a perfect score here in part 1, because the next sections are going to get significantly more challenging. Okay, so far, so good. All right. Let's keep going. Question 4, it's a little bit different. This is kind of a multiple choice question. So it's where you have one question with multiple choices and you have to choose multiple answers. Okay, so the question here is, which 3 pieces of information are required to receive the child's personal education number? Now, this type of question, you have to be careful because you don't have enough time often to read all of the possible choices and choose them as you're listening. So there are 2 different strategies that you want to use for this kind of question to give yourself the best chance, okay? Number 1 is take quick notes, okay? You can take notes in the computer-based exam as well. You have a piece of paper and a pen, and use your logic, okay? So here, the speaker says the woman's or the mother's and the father's and the mother's national insurance number, okay? And then their names, all right? So if you're really quick and clever with your notes, all you would have is man, woman, national insurance number, names, okay? Learn short form for notes so that you can be very, very quick. The other, of course, that you can use here is logic, and let me show you that, right? So in the conversation, the administrator asks for the national insurance number of the woman, and then here she says, I'm going to need your husband's national insurance number as well, and of course your names. The woman's already introduced herself, so we need the husband's name, right? Now, if you look at choice A and B, they're going to be wrong because you have personal insurance number, okay? Your personal insurance number is your insurance number for your medical or for your life insurance. That's not something a school is going to ask for, okay? That's something that's personal. So it would be really weird to answer that question. So if you think carefully about that, then you realize that those are just not possible, okay? So the strategy here, notes, okay, quick notes, and logic. Okay, that's what you got to do. So notes and logic, focus on those. All right, practice those when you get to these multiple choice questions. Everybody's good on that? So everybody's clear on those two key strategies for these multiple choice questions? Yeah? Okay. So Jenna is saying, oh, it's got to be CDF then. And it is CDF. So the correct answers here are C, D, and F. We have the woman's name, and we certainly don't need personal insurance numbers. So correct answers are C, D, and F. So even if you don't catch all of the answers right away, don't panic. Logic is your friend, and there's a very good chance you can still figure out the right answer. Okay? All right. Sahil says, I still don't get it. Sahil, don't worry about it. If you don't get it, send me an email and we can clarify it further for you, okay? And another place that you can see these strategies again and again, Sahil, is at ahelp.com and glshelp.com, okay? So check it out there in the listening section, strategies in your full course, okay? Also, you can see videos that will go into more details as well in HD, all right? Okay, so here we have number 5. This was a spelling question. So how is the husband's name spelled? A with a CK on the end, B with a C on the end only, or C with a K on the end only? So they say something interesting about his nationality and the spelling of his name. Carolina says C, Shaikh says B, Zachariah says B. The correct answer here is C. And the woman says it's a K. Instead of a C. Because her husband is Swedish. So this is where she repeats her husband's nationality. So she says, oh, it's because he's Swedish. It's spelt with a K instead of a C, right? Now, if you don't catch an answer like this, and you're not sure why the answer is C, okay, so you're like, what's going on here, right? Then immediately what you should be doing when you're studying at home is checking your transcripts to see what kind of dialogue was used for that, okay? So check the transcripts. All right? And every good lesson material will have transcripts at the back of the book. I can show you that real quick, what I mean by that. So just give me a second to get to that page. Okay, let's see if I can find it here for us. Give me a moment. Yeah, there we go. So in our book, you'll find it on page 202. And questions 1 to 5, here we go. So here's the transcript. So this is basically all of the dialogue that they're using in this part of the listening. Okay, and you can see here for question 1, it's highlighted in bold and the number 1 is indicated. My husband is Swedish. Okay, and then we're looking for number 5, And here we go. Diane says, my husband's name is Eric with a K instead of a C on the end. So this instead of a C, we know that the C is replaced with the K. Okay, the English would be the C, the Swedish is with the K. Okay, so check the transcripts. It's going to help you a lot. All right, let's get back to the questions. Okay, so here we had a little bit of a break, a chance to review questions 6 to 10. Okay, and then question 6 was a dictation question. These dictation questions are very, very common in part 1, so credit card numbers, postal codes, telephone numbers. They're going to dictate them. Make sure to practice these. It's almost for sure that you're going to get at least 1, maybe even 2 of these types of questions. So what is Matilda's personal education number? A, B, or C? The differences are the first letter here, and in C we have a second letter P here. So which one is right? Jack says it's A, Sammy says it's A, and I believe you are correct. So the right answer for this one is A. So you just had to listen for that T sound, and then you had to hear that all of the rest of these were numbers and there was no letter there. So T56340192. Okay. All right, and then question 7, where's the child born? When they talk about this, they say, hey, the first letter indicates the location of birth. So the child is born either in Newcastle, London, or Monterey. This was a fairly easy one. They really enunciated this answer. Sai says A. Girinath says A. Yeah, A is right. It's Newcastle, right? Very good. So hopefully everybody is doing great so far, and I'm hoping that nobody's got more than 1 wrong. Worst case scenario, 2 wrong. Definitely no more than 2 though. Okay. All right. So it's another one of those multiple choice questions. Choose 2 letters A to F. What 2? Focus on the question, right? Not 3. What 2 qualifications do many of the nursery school's senior staff have? Is it A, a 1-year diploma, B, a 2-year diploma, C, 3-year master's degree, bachelor's degree, doctorate degree? So you had to choose 2 of them. D. Barak says B and E. Sammy agrees. Our members are in agreement. Arda as well. Most of you have that. So yeah, very clearly the administrator says, oh, your daughter's in good hands. Most of our staff have a 2-year diploma and many of our staff have bachelor's degrees. So here in your answer sheet, if you're doing the paper-based exam, what your answer looks like is this: B and E. Like that, just like that, okay? So you put the first letter, comma. If you write E, comma, B, that's totally fine as well, as long as you have the 2 correct letters, okay? But you have to have 2. If you only put 1, you'll get it wrong, okay? It's just 1 question, so you have to have both correct to pick up that point. If you only get 1 correct out of the 2, it will be marked wrong. So it has to be 2 out of 2 for that, okay? All right, questions 9 to 10, you have to complete the notes. This is a short answer form, okay? So the first question here, and be always cautious of these instructions, so no more than 2 words and or a number, okay? If you have 3 words, they will mark it wrong, even if it's the right idea. So the first day of class, number 9. What's the first day of class? UV says it's the 5th of September. Gurjivan says 5th. Yeah, but you have to have September, Gurjivan. If you don't have September, you won't get that wrong, or you won't get that right. You'll get it wrong. Ajmira says 5th September. Yeah, and use the short form here. So, Sept 5. That's all you need, okay? You do not need the TH, all right? It's enough just to have the number, okay? So make sure to just use the simplest answer possible because you want to be quick. You don't know when the next answer is coming. You want to be as fast as possible here. So use the abbreviation SEPT 5 and you will get that correct. Avoid writing the full words for months of the year. You increase your chances of spelling mistakes, especially when you're moving quickly. Okay, double check it when you're transferring answers to the answer sheet in the paper-based exam. All right. And then they have orientation day on the 3rd of September, which is, of course, before the first day of class. That makes sense. The orientation hours. And then the last point for question 10 is someone and children should attend the orientation. Now, even if you miss this, you might get it just from logic, right? So Sammy says parents. Gurjivan agrees that it's parents. I agree that it's parents. Okay. One really important point here is make sure it's plural, parents, not just parent. The second noun is plural, it's children. So if you have a plural noun as the second noun, that will give you the hint that the first noun is also plural. If you write parent, it will be marked wrong. Okay, so plurals are important in your answers. If the answer requires a plural and you use the singular form of the noun, that's going to be a mistake. All right, so don't do that. Okay. And again, that's another point that you can review when it tells you to review your answers. So if you wrote parent and you realize, oh, there's a missing S, quickly put that S in there when you see that it's children, and you'll pick up that point, okay? All right, so the next question here, of course, is what did you get out of 10? And Kabita says 7, which is, it's okay, Kabita, but you definitely want to do better than that for part 1. So for part 1, your goal is to have either 9 or 10 correct from 10, right? So how did you do? What did you get out of 10? Gurjivan says, I got 10 out of 10. Arda got it too. That's great. UV, 9 is absolutely sufficient. Debarak, 9 is sufficient. Morna, 8 is just under what you want. Okay, so your goal for this part 1 is 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, because it's just going to get more and more difficult. And from our experience training thousands of students every month, students who get under 9 in part 1 usually tend to have difficulty getting over 6.5 in the listening section. So when marks are like 7 or 8 for part 1, we usually see scores of like 5.5 band for the listening section. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's keep rocking and rolling. So now we'll go to part 2, and we know that part 2 is something about a university. So we're already thinking, okay, it's a university tour, or it's something about a university, probably what they teach, where it is, what the university is about. So we've got all these questions and answers kind of churning and moving around in our heads. Okay, so we're going to listen and answer these questions as well, and then we'll go through the answers and we'll talk strategy. All right, so let's keep going forward. Okay, so here we go. Let's get back to the audio, and again, I'm playing the audio through my headset microphone, so just turn up the volume if it's quiet for you, okay? It shouldn't be, because the volume's quite loud on my end, but anyway, here we go.
Battery, 90%.
Take some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Listening section 2. You will hear a recording of a university campus tour. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully to the interview and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you're here for the university campus tour, you're in the correct place. There are 2 purposes for this tour. For prospective students, you get to see the campus where you may be studying in a few months, and you get to learn some interesting information which may convince you to look favourably on our university. For parents, you get to learn what life is like at this university, so you know where you are sending your kids off to this autumn. Before we start the tour, I'd like to give you some background information. This university was originally opened in 1686, although from 1745 to 1805 it was shut down due to a lack of funding. The university is composed of 23 buildings which were built in one of three periods. There were 4 original buildings in 1686, a dozen more buildings were constructed in the period from 1805 to 1815, and the final 7 buildings have been added in the past 10 years. So there is a fascinating mix of 17th century, 19th century and quite modern architecture. The first building we are going to look at is called the Prescott Building, named after the university's first chancellor, William Chester Prescott. As you can probably tell, this is one of the university's original buildings completed in 1686. The building is actually quite unique in shape. It is approximately 40 metres long while only 8 metres wide. It also has these interesting circular areas attached to each corner, 4 of them in all. These 4 circular areas each house a large bell. None of the bells work today, however. As we walk in the door, I'd like to point out all of the beautiful Persian carpets on the floor. These carpets were donated to the university by a former student almost 150 years ago. It is very common for former students who have done well in life to give back to the university. Some give money, some give land, some give gifts such as Persian carpets. One former student even gave the university his pub after he died. By the way, that pub, which is located at the intersection of 3rd Street and Pine Avenue, gives students of the university a 30% discount. Now, if that's not a selling point for this university, I don't know what is. On a serious note, it is our outstanding education which makes our university a top competitor on the global front.
You now have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 17 to 20.
Before we go any further, are there any questions? No? Right then. Next we are going to visit the university library. As you see in front of the library, there is a beautiful fountain which shoots water high up in the air. Once again, the funding for the fountain came from a former student, in this case a well-known artist. It was constructed just 15 years ago at the cost of £50,000. As we step into the library, I think what you'll notice at first is the fact there are no books. Indeed, there are no books at all on the entire ground floor. On the 5 upper floors, however, there are over 3 million books. The library's collection has been built over time through private donations, gifts from former students, as well as university purchases. There is also a special collections area where there are original works dating back to the year 1588. Next on our itinerary is a visit to the sporting facilities. Here at the university we have over a dozen different facilities for almost any sport you can imagine, ranging from football and rugby to tennis and squash to archery and cricket. Our rugby team has won the national championship 3 out of the last 5 years. As you'll see on your left is a famous wall where we put pictures of.
That is the end of section 2. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And as I mentioned before, use that half minute to check those answers, plurals, singulars, spelling mistakes, the instructions to make sure your answers match. All right. So again, this audio is being played from the full course account on our websites. You can find lots of practice exams there. Let's go through these answers together now, and we'll see how you did, okay? So the first one was filling out this table. Again, no more than 2 words. Oftentimes when it says no more than 2 words, many answers will be just 1 word. But there's a good chance that at least one of them might be 2 words. So the university opened in what year? They said a very specific year. You had to listen for it. You simply had to catch it. Piscasi says it's 1686, and Yuvi and Lael and Raj all seem to agree. Yeah, 1686. Now, when we say years in English, we often say them as 2 sets of 2-digit numbers. So 1686. So get used to listening to years with those. Okay, 1921. 1742. We don't say 1686. You will almost never hear somebody say that. Okay, so 1686. All right, 1745, 1805, it was shut down, no funding, no money coming in. And then it was again kind of reignited during 1805 to 1815. And during this 10-year period, there were a number of buildings constructed. How many buildings were constructed during this specific time? And so there's 23 buildings total, but during this time there were how many buildings? Not 25, not 21, not 23. Sudarshan says it's 12. Yeah, you can write 12. 12 is the easiest way to answer it. The number that they actually give you is a dozen. Okay? Dozen in English, of course, means 12. So if you go to the bakery and you want to buy donuts, you have to say, I would like a dozen donuts, or I would like to have a dozen eggs. Okay, so in the US, in the UK, and Canada, usually eggs are sold by the dozen or half dozen, so 6. Okay, 6 donuts, half dozen donuts, all right? So make sure you're familiar with the word dozen. It's commonly used in everyday language. That's why they're checking to see if you're familiar with it here. All right, and then in the past something number of years, 7 buildings were constructed. In the past, how many years? And they talk about this. They say there's some modern buildings as well. So in the past, how many years? 7 more buildings were constructed. 10. Yeah, so 10, again, easiest is just to use the number. Okay, you could write 10. Hopefully everybody can spell 10, T-E-N. But again, just the number I think is faster, less lines, right? It's just a 1 and an O, so 10. Okay. All right, great. So far so good. These weren't too bad. Hopefully many of you got these correct. And then here was kind of identifying the right map or the right picture. Okay, they gave you some key information to figure out which was the correct answer. The Prescott building, which has a certain kind of layout, it either has this or this layout. The correct answer, Raj, Patel, Varjat, and Shinju agree that it's B. Yeah, they say it's like 50 meters long or 50 feet long or something like that. Or I think it's 50 meters. Or 40 meters, it's something very long, and then only 8 meters wide. And they also say it has these circular towers at each corner, which used to house bells, right? So they used to have bells in those towers, okay? When you're practicing listening at home, go above and beyond the questions. So even pay attention to that kind of information, that there were bells in those towers, okay? Deepika says it was 40 meters. Okay. I honestly did not remember whether it was 40 or 50. I just remembered that it was long. All right. So how many years ago were the Persian carpets donated? Again, no more than 2 words and or a number. All you need here is one number, 150. Right? If they don't have the word years in the question, then you would have to put years. But because they say years, so how many years ago, all you need is 150. You don't need any more words. So no more than 2 words and or a number. So Carolina, be careful. You would not want to write 150 years ago. Okay? That would be wrong because then you're using 2 words plus a number, not or a number. Okay, so careful with that. All right, and many students donated post-mortem to the university. It means after their death. Somebody even donated their pub. And this pub gives a discount to university students. How much of a discount? 30%, 40%, or 3%? A is the correct answer. Jack William got it right, along with many others. This was A. Yeah, 30%. That makes sense. 40 is a bit high. Would be awesome, but I don't know if the pub would stay open very long with that kind of a discount. 3% is kind of a joke. I don't think that would be too exciting for anyone. So 30% is logically the correct answer as well. Again, logic is your friend in the IELTS exam, okay? All right. Then we had questions 17 to 20. And for this, you had to complete the summary, okay? And so this was a summary, so you have to just kind of listen. This is foreshadowing part 4 as well, because part 4 is a lot of this kind of question where you're just listening and filling in words as you're listening, right? So in front of the library, there is a beautiful, that's right, Raj, that's right, Sachin, it's a fountain. It's just a proper noun. Use all small letters. Fountain. Okay, so there's a beautiful fountain there. You can use all capital letters as well. Okay, just be careful. Capital letters are slower to write. It's easier to make spelling mistakes too. Inside the library, the ground floor has how many books? So this is kind of a tricky one, but it made sense, and the tour guide did repeat himself like 2 times. He said, "You'll be surprised that there are no books on the ground floor." That's right, Hoang. So there are no books, has no books. Okay. The upper floors, however, that word however should also assure you that this is no, because it's a contrast, right? Has over 3 million books. The collection was built by donations, gifts, and university purchases. Additionally, there is a something area. You have to know this word. It's a bit more challenging. This is kind of that Band 9 candidate question. VG, very good. Paulina, very good. It's a special collections. And it's a unique word here because usually plural for collections is a little bit less common, but here it's special collections. And the only way you'll get this right is if you have that S on the end. There's special collections because it's multiple collections of books that are rare and unique. Okay? So it has to be with that S. If you got it, that's fantastic. That means that you're doing a really good job on the listening section. Okay, there are many sporting facilities, including the rugby field, which is home to the rugby team, which has won 3 of the past 5 what? He says this very clearly. You can capitalize this if you want or not. Doesn't matter here. So the 3 of the past 5, not Olympic years, Paulina. Harpinder, almost, but you're missing the plural. Carolina, very good. It's national championships. Okay. You have to have an S because it's 3 of 5. So, national championships. Okay. It's countable. Absolutely. All right. Okay, so that's part 1 and part 2. I've given you quite a few different tips and strategies going over part 1 and part 2. Hopefully you caught those. If not, again, you can find a lot of these strategies, or not all of them, and even more detailed ones at ahelp.com and glshelp.com. My last question for you right now is, how did you do out of 20? So, from our experience, students who get band 7 or more on the listening section for part 1 and part 2 together, they get a score of, I would say, 16 or more, so greater than 16. Okay. So that's what you should be aiming for when you're practicing at home if you want to get into that band 7 and higher category. Okay, so Dan Ewan, you're on the right track. Okay, Gurjavan, you're on the right track. D Barak, you're right on the borderline there. Okay, all right, looking good. Okay. So that is it for part 1 and part 2 of the listening. Worry not, because we will do part 3 and part 4. Remember, part 3 will be about taxes, and part 4 will be something about Isaac Newton. So if you want to prepare, maybe do a bit of reading on the history of taxes and a little reading on Isaac Newton to prepare yourself for tomorrow. It's a good reading exercise for the reading section. And I will be back tomorrow with part 3 and part 4. Check out our websites. This is the general IELTS website, gieltshelp.com. And we were just using the academic IELTS website to do the listening. So you can check that out. Again, it's a one-time payment for lifetime access on these websites. All you have to do are just click these big red buttons. That's why they're big and red, to encourage you to click the big red button. Okay? All right. Deepika, you could write 0 for question 18, and they will probably take it because it's a perfect synonym. But if you can, write what you hear in the actual listening, okay? So try not to paraphrase for these kinds of answers, okay? You are very welcome, Rashika. Great participation, everyone. Again, visit our website, sign up for the courses. You won't regret it. It's very, very rare that anybody ever complains to us about our course. Most people send us very good feedback, and you can check those out in the testimonials as well. Okay, everyone, I'm done for now, but again, I will be back tomorrow at the same time with listening part 3 and 4, and I will be here a little bit earlier for a members class as well. Have a lovely rest of your day. Remember, you're all beautiful, smart people, and always be confident and push forward. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria for now. Bye, everyone.